My friends, welcome back to Canada. I'm sort of saying that to myself. So anyways, sunny Sunday morning. We will get our breakfast ready first and then I will walk you through what's happening with, not sure if you can see, this guy down there. There is only one cruiser in the driveway now. We sort of went from having too many cruisers in the driveway to having nothing to drive because this one is still not inspected yet. In my last trip video, at the very end of it, I kind of teased a little bit of when we got the delivery, when the cruiser was rolling down from the tow truck, and then right after that I went to Australia. So it's been just sitting, and the blue diesel was sold while I was in Australia. The deal was sort of sealed before I was gone though. Guy from Colorado came up.
He's from Utah actually.
To pick up the car when I was gone. Eric helped with facilitating all of these process, so I didn't get to see the blue one. Wasn't back, and then the white one, it's been in the plan to sell from the very beginning. After the last trip, we took everything out, roof tent out, all the drawers out, returning it back to not factory, basically how I got it. A couple days ago, right now as we were speaking, it's Sunday right now, posted the sale on Wednesday, Tuesday. Friday, some guy came to look at it. On Saturday, he booked an inspection, and then right at that night, which is last night, he came to pick up the car. So we sort of need to get this one ready to go and inspected and plated, so at least can get around a bit. Just slowly picking up pieces of my life in Canada back together, you know. Okay, before I get into too much babbling, breakfast here. One of the first thing I did after coming back from Australia is to get a barbie in the backyard, because I thought we do have the patio, the deck, and all the space. Should really use it instead of always just spending time in the garage, you know, as we always do. And I guess maybe partially because I used to be out so much and you were just cooking out in the field, in the mountains, in whatever, in the nature, right? And then now that we sort of like don't even have a car to drive, you can't really get out anymore. And this is sort of our way of still cook outside. Bacon grease is like the best oil.
Okay, now we're gonna do the egg. Perfect. Nothing like a big breakfast before working on LandCruisers all day. Ooh, that's perfect.
Yeah, so basically what's happening today, well, on this episode, obviously we're gonna eat first and start today, but I want to add in, because when I was in Australia, Eric did a bunch of rust repair on the rear quarter of this new cruiser, and I want to show you some of the clips that he had filmed. It could be a good tutorial for anyone that just got a rust bucket like most cruisers are.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of hidden rust on LandCruisers these days, so.
Yeah, so like most of the repair you actually won't see it, but might not pass inspection when you take it in for a provincial inspection so that you can get it plated in Canada. Stuff like that. So if you are only interested in that part, jump to this time mark. Other than that, we will do some other small things just to sort of get it inspection ready. A rusted skid plate for the fuel tank need to be replaced. Luckily, I had the one from Alta from back then, and I just got a fresh coat of powder coat on it, and so it looks almost fresh from factory.
Okay, can we start putting some of this stuff on the... They smell like all sorts of good things.
Yeah.
Because they're gingerbread, right?
Gingerbread, yeah, gingerbread pancake.
With chocolate chips.
Yes.
Cooked in bacon grease.
Yeah.
We love breakfast. Well, we're going to take the back bumper off. I have some internal frame coating paint from Eastwood that's really good for encapsulating rust in the back section of the frame, preventing it from going any further, getting any worse. Yeah, we'll do that, and then we'll just touch up a few spots on the frame with some paint back there. It just looks like the truck was dunked in salt water a little bit at the back, probably towing jet skis around Japan for many, many years of its life.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Everything else is relatively rust-free. It's just the rear quarter. So you really can't sort of tell what this car's previous owner's lifestyle is by just looking at how the car rusts. Because I think the cruiser you were driving in Australia, it was rusted in a really weird spot in the door hinge.
Yeah, the cruiser I drove in Australia had the front, where the doors hinge from was like holes.
Yeah.
And they just Dan figures like a surfy type dude must have had it and just always rested his towel on it. We couldn't really come up with anything else. Why is the truck only rusty right there? It's interesting like seeing the way trucks rust in different parts of the world, because obviously Australia, Perth specifically, where that truck is from, it's not like they salt the roads or have cold winters.
Yeah, no.
Like 60s here, they just like vaporize. They melt.
Disintegrate into nothing.
They turn into dust. Whereas in Australia, they seem to rust from the roof.
Breakfast ready? Ooh, look at this. The chocolate inside. Gingerbread flavor. So good. Little bit of introduction of the Alta 2.0 in diesel. Delta. It's a 2007 HZJ100 from Japan. 5-speed turbo diesel, final year 100 series. Relatively stock, same color as Alta, just a bit over 200,000 kilometers. Auto height control, cold weather package, which includes heated seats, heated mirrors, larger heater core, roll down screen for radiator, and power heater. All those goodies that should have been on a Canadian truck. The plan is to make this what Alta was, but better, with the stuff I had planned back then but didn't get to do. We already got the bull bar, side rails, and suspensions in the shed, but I might enjoy it stock for just a bit longer. We'll see. Okay, let's jump to the rust repair on the rear pockets of this cruiser. This all happened while I was still in Australia. Eric grabbed my camera and filmed himself throughout the process. We think this could be helpful for anyone facing similar situations, so here's a documentation of the process as a tutorial. You can form sheet metal to match the body shape, but I have a donor piece from the rear quarter I had cut off from my old cruiser. We just knew most cruisers rust in this quarter where the mud and salt get kicked up. That cruiser was extremely clean and rust-free, so I kept as many pieces as possible that's not crushed from the rollover. Been laying around in the yard and finally had its purpose.
Okay, it's a little late for me to start this video because I've already cut everything apart, but I've removed this outer piece. I've drilled out some spot welds. Most of the rust just broke off. I've got the donor piece, which will line up nicely with some fitting. I gotta deburr and get all the paint off of that. What I need to do first though is I need to cut a chunk of this off, and then I'll section this and weld that first. And I've put the weld down here so it's a little bit away from where I'm going to be welding up here. So let's start that first. Now I can Sharpie this and then cut that out. Alright, so I'm going to tack this piece in place now. Try and get it fitted up correctly. Okay, I spent a bunch of time doing some fitting here, so now it lines up nearly perfectly here. So got a little slightly uneven gap all the way around, but I'll be able to weld that okay. Yeah, the next thing would be I want to hit some of this with some paint. I need to get some weld through primer, and then I will tack this all up and yeah, look to finish that off. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Now I'm just gonna start prepping the edges here and remove all the paint so I got a good penetration on the weld. Okay, day 2 working on the truck. I've got a skim coat of filler on here now. I used metal reinforced. I didn't have to use metal reinforced on this, but it'll help fill in those little pinholes and stuff that I may have left or missed. So I'm gonna sand this down, seam seal the inside to join the two pieces and make sure hopefully it doesn't get water in there again. Paint this, and then I may undercoat it. I'm not sure yet. So let's get going. I've got some 80 grit sandpaper on this sanding pad. It's not best condition, but it'll be fine for this. So I'm not the best at any of this stuff, but I know from some experience that I've been told to go in a few times direction this way, a few times direction this way, to keep it kind of all level and even. Okay, so now I've gone over it with the 80 grit, and then I've done a quick pass with some 220 to get rid of some of the deeper scratches. That way, once I paint it, it won't look as bad, or it'll look better, I guess would be the other way of saying it. I'm not doing this to perfection. You can see some of the dent from the weld sticking out here. The edge is a little wonky. Some of the stuff down here is not perfect. Ideally, I would sand this down, probably do another thin coat with a finer filler, but because this is all hidden by the body, I'm not going to spend too much time making this look the best, but I'm still going to do it with, you know, all the different materials and preps and stuff to the same level I would if I was painting something that would be exposed. I've wiped this part all down to get rid of any sort of surface contaminants with some solvent. Now I'm going to take some acid etch primer. This will take care of any of the metal and metal spots here before I go further with the paint. So I've done a few things off camera. This is a brush on seam sealer. Typically you take a brush and brush this in some of the joints where the metal combines, everything, just to seal it off. I couldn't find my brushes, so I used blue shop towel, and I wasn't proud of it, but I've got the inside seam sealed now. And then I grabbed some normal primer, and then I just did a coat on top of this. Masked this off. The truck's getting polished eventually, so any little bits of little overspray will be polished away. For now, I've got a solid coat on here, so I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'll do a top coat with just some black, I think. And then this side should be good. Once the seam sealer dries in the next day or so, then I'll go inside, paint the inside in here black as well. And that's that.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
No.
Okay.
So while I was looking for some paint, I actually found I got some custom paint match mixed up for a little art project I did for Monique's birthday last year. So I have paint match. Sweet. That looks awesome. Well, I'm back on this for day 3. I didn't film this first part, but I had to cut out a sizable chunk from the truck here. It was quite rusty along the bottom. I have this donor piece from Monique's old truck Altar, so I'm going to cut this up, and then I'll slowly start splicing these pieces together into this to do the repair. And for that, I grabbed a spot welded drill bit. All these parts are held together with a series of spot welds, so I'm going to use this special drill bit, and I'll just go through and hit all these one by one until I can separate the outer skin from the inner skin. And then there's a few more pieces I need to separate in here because I need this piece from the wheel well as well. So here we go. That one's good. You can see that one. I got right down underneath. See them right here. I missed these because that part was rusty on this truck. I just gotta drill out these 3 and then we're good. Voila, there we go. Next step is going to be to clean off all this undercoating here so I can see there's one spot weld exposed, but I'm going to have to expose the other ones to make sure I can get them all properly. Once I remove this piece, I got to separate this wheel well piece from the inner pocket. There we go. Nice. Awesome. So all that's left is this piece back here from the existing. I'm not going to take this whole piece out because it would require a lot more cutting and stuff. So I'm just gonna take this piece, I'll cut it along the same line up here, and then we can decide how much of this we want to use. I will probably still just use the lower section of it, and then we'll also figure out how much we're going to use of this. So I've just been doing some cutting off screen. I've got this piece fit up pretty good. It'll be a little bit better when I start to tack it in place, but you get the idea. So I'm going to go ahead and tack that in. Once I'm sure of its fitment, then I'll go ahead, fully weld it, and then next thing's next. I got to fit this piece in here because it's got to slot in between this piece and this piece here. So that's next, and yeah, I guess tomorrow I'll probably work on this and fitting the outside piece.
Welding on auto body type of very thin material, you basically want to throw a bunch of tacks instead of running a long weld. You don't want to poke a hole through it. Perhaps using TIG will give you better control, but we're running on very cheap Canadian tire welder on 120 volt with very limited setting. It trips the breaker every 2 continuous inches of weld. Can't do structural stuff, but for non-structural cosmetic bodywork, should be right.
Oh, that's ugly. Alright, I'm getting back on this today. It's been a bunch of rain lately, so I haven't been able to work on this. I'm going to start test fitting this piece up here. I'm gonna put it right about there, and then I'll trace this out, cut that, and then I'll start welding that in. And then from there, we'll move on to the outside. Let's go. Could just cut right across and then just weld that. I think I might do that. Okay, I've gone ahead and I've seam sealed everything that I've welded in here. I'm gonna apply some seam sealer along some of these edges, and then I'm gonna got the panel kind of lightly prepped. So then I will put that in place, and then I'll go ahead and tack that in. I've gone ahead and I've painted the inside of this piece, and I've put some seam sealer on some of the joints here. I put some seam sealer there, all the spots where this is gonna sit. So momentarily I'm going to put this up, and then I'll give it a few tacks to kind of locate it in place, and then yeah, we'll start assembling it. Alright, off camera I've done a lot of grinding here, finished welding all this. One pass with like a more aggressive wheel, and then another pass with a flapper wheel. It's more of like a sanding pad than anything, just to kind of give it a better finish. Now I'm going to go over this with some metal reinforced filler, and I'll just fill that weld in a little bit, kind of smooth that out. Again, I'm not trying for perfection here because this isn't a panel you're going to see. It's going to be hidden behind the bumper. Even if Monique decides to go to an aftermarket rear bumper, it's still going to be hidden. I'm liking how it's looking so far. So I sanded down all the filler, did another pass. I did a first pass with like 80 grit, and then I did a second pass with 180. A little bit of touch up with 220. I gave it a coat of etching primer, which will adhere to all the bare metal that's exposed. And then after the etching primer, I did a few coats of an all-purpose gray primer. And now I'm ready to throw down some color. There's some pocking and some marks. I'm not going to try and make this repair totally perfect just because of where it is. If in the future it's going to be exposed for some reason, some weird bumper or whatnot, we can tackle it again at that point, but this should be more than adequate for now. So here we go. I'm going to throw some color down. We're going to take the back bumper off again, and then we are going to do a little bit of cleanup on the frame, and we are going to use the Eastwood internal frame paint on the frame sections, and then we'll use some rust encapsulator paint on top of that just to make sure the whole back end of the truck is completely protected and should give this truck a very long life from here on out.
Okay, just to add into that of while we're painting the inside, this is one thing that a lot of people ignore when they weld stuff on the frame. I'll let you elaborate on that.
Well, a lot of people will weld sliders and stuff on their truck, and Toyotas notoriously break right in half, and I've had a few friends have their trucks break right in half. You know, they weld the sliders on, the paint burns off on the inside of the frame, or what's left of the paint on the inside of the frame. So it's really important if you do any sort of welding on a Toyota frame or any frame to paint the inside of the frame afterwards. So yeah, when I did that on my 60 series when I converted it to 80 series axles, and that was, you know, after doing a bunch of modifications. In our case here, we're just doing it to prevent further rust. Yeah, give this truck a few more years of solid life.
Yeah, because most people, when you think about welding something, grinding something, you just paint what you can see from the outside and thinking the rust only come from the outside where you can see. Not really the case when it's a frame.
Yeah, exactly. So we're also going to do the sections where I did the body work in the lower sections of the rear quarter. We'll show you all about that, but basically the paint has a 180-degree nozzle on it, so it can spray all over inside the frame as you pull the nozzle back. And we'll do the same thing with the rear pockets where I did the body work. So
stick the bumper off?
Yeah. Filter dryer, like, it's not imperative that every system has one, but it's definitely a good idea to have one. Like, you could retrofit your stuff into that.
That was one of those things I didn't keep, I don't think.
I mean, like, as long as you had the lines, you'd be okay. Because you should probably replace that part anytime you open the system up anyways.
Yeah, I'm not even sure how to make this system work, though, because those JZ lines are...
Actually have it be a JZX and, like, not go Gerard where, like, half the shit doesn't work.
You guys are doing stuff where...
Yeah, if you need that stuff though, just let me know. So I'm gonna take this little plastic piece off here. This will give us access to the inside of the rear pocket. All right, well, I am going to get under the back of the truck and clean up a little bit of surface rust. Battery is not fully charged, so we're off to a good start. I just used my trusty vice grips here to get an old bumper bolt out that was fully stripped off. I was able to sneak that out and not have the bolt snap off inside the frame, which is pretty common on any old rusty Toyota, so happy about that. That's a little W we needed. Once we're all finished here, we'll be able to put some brand new bolts back in and the bumper will be a-okay. So I'm gonna hop back underneath the truck and continue grinding away a little bit. It's not gonna be perfect, but with that rust encapsulator paint, it doesn't need to be. I'm sure people will be screaming in the comments, it's just gonna come back. It is what it is. It's an old Toyota truck. Anyone who thinks these trucks aren't rusty, well, they either have a super, super low mileage one or they don't drive it, but these things are always rusty in some case.
The auto is really good though.
Yeah, but I mean, that truck was pampered before you got it. That was just a street truck with some painted ARB parts on it. And that's like half the hundreds out there, but the other half that are used, it's only a matter of time, really. If you want to pull the camera down here, I can show you. So most 100 series, even like moderately clean ones, I've seen mint trucks still rust out right in this panhard cross member because if you look, it dips down right here next to the frame. I actually drilled this hole here, sort of like the OEM holes, because there was like an inch of silt built up in here, and they will rust. Like even the cleanest trucks will rust there. This truck, the body's relatively mint, so that's always a good idea to check this spot out. That's one of the major spots on 100s for sure. 80s, they rust out in the dog leg on the rocker panel. 100s love to rust out right here. I think it's just a bit of a design flaw, the way the frame dips down here. It just will fill up with dirt unless you're really, really actively taking care of that, which maybe now if you see that, you'll know to do that. So once we're done inspection, because we're going to be running a removable swing out spare tire carrier that's hitch mounted, once we're done inspection, we'll just get rid of the the factory cross member for the undermount rear tire. We'll just unbolt it from the top and then unbolt these brackets on either side of the frame. Then we'll just do a little bit more touch up on the frame coating there. So it'll be nice to get that out of the way. And all these auxiliary bars that kind of hold the tire up, they're all a little rusty. We'll be getting rid of them, so we don't need that on a day-to-day basis driving the truck around. I'm not going to go too crazy on all this stuff. I mean, it's got 2 layers of undercoating on it that's nearly impossible to get off. That's why we're going to use the really good rust encapsulator paint, and should be good. We'll do the inside of the frame first. The internal frame paint is actually green. They sell it in black, but I prefer getting it in green, so that way you can see through all the holes in the chassis everywhere. And when it starts to drip out the bottom, you'll know, okay, I got that area really well. And then we'll go over it with black afterwards on the outside to make sure it looks all nice. Okay, so now we've done all the prep, blown out the frame, just using air, blow out all the sand and debris and stuff from the inside of the frame. So now we're gonna use this. This is the Eastwood internal frame coating that I've used before on my 60 when I converted it to 80 series axles, and I like the product. It's a spray can, and then it's got a kind of conical nozzle here that sprays a huge pattern like this. So you can just pull it through the frame and it'll spray everything. I chose the green one. Like I said before, I like to be able to see it drip out of the frame, or I can see it through the access holes in the frame. You know, I found out the other day that this black dot on spray cans, like almost any spray can you'll see, even like old WD-40 will have this black dot on it. From what I understood is that's where the straw comes down from the nozzle onto that side of the can, because it's dome shaped on the bottom. Be that way, so if you are near the end of the can and you're spraying up, obviously you're going to be out, so you need to turn your nozzle to the opposite of that, so it's dipping down into the bottom. Social media ain't that bad, you know, sometimes. I'm just trying to straighten the hose out a little bit. Nice. All right. Yeah, this is rad. Ooh, I'm out. Good thing I got 2 cans. I want to say it's like almost $40 Canadian a can. I got it from KMS Tools, but you can probably buy it anywhere you get like automotive paint supplies. Okay, now I just got to do 2 cross members in the back of the frame and I think I'm good. I'm not going to go too crazy on the rest of the frame right now because we're going to delete the AHC and then we'll have to do the outsides and the front section of the frame anyways at that point. So now that I'm done the internal frame paint, see it's all over the place, but now I'm gonna go over all the stuff I can reach that's on the outside of the frame cross members, spare tire, support, outside frame rails, basically everything I can get to in the back. I'll go over with this rust encapsulator, and it'll encapsulate the rust, cover it up, prevent it from spreading.
Respirator, May?
What's that?
Respirator.
I don't know what that is.
It's Das Wetter kind of shit.
That kind of shit?
Yeah.
This is matte black. I don't really like using matte black on frames. You can top coat this with almost anything. So then afterwards, I'm just gonna top coat it with just like a generic satin black Rust-Oleum because I prefer frames to be satin black. I usually just use any sort of semi-gloss. This stuff's okay.
Before we put the wheels back on, change the skid plate for the fuel tank. Look how fresh this is. 17, 14 still.
Thank you. I might need the 12 as well. Thank you. Slow down, slow down. Okay. Okay, keep going. Wait, stop. I need an extension. Thank you. Okay.
Nice. Old versus also old, but not as bad. Even though we had to cut a piece out of here. You can still see how crusty it is. Right there, basically all just holes. Just trying to get rid of anything that the inspector might question on. Put the rubber back on and reverse.
Install as reverse of removal.
Yeah. You want a piece of like masking tape just to keep it there? Make it easier.
Probably be a good idea.
The front one's perfect.
Okay. Let me just see if I can get this. Keep going. Okay, lower it down. Nice.
I hope this episode has been helpful. Originally, Eric was planning to show me how he does his old cruiser repairs in person, but a press trip came up in June and he wanted to get this ready before then. Since I wasn't in Canada, he filmed the process to still be able to teach me. You probably guessed it, I still didn't make it. But by the time I knew I wouldn't be going to the press trip in June, we let ourselves slow it down and I got to see the lighter half of work before taking the cruiser to inspection. And I reckon Eric is a natural at explaining steps and processes. We could totally do more of these throughout the building of the Alta. What do you think? Should we do more? Finally, putting the bumper back on. Hold on, do you see this? Here, I'll zoom in. That's Eric's phone. Yeah, I totally missed that. And Eric as well. You see he's helping me locking his phone inside the bumper. He didn't realize this until way later. The phone ringtone would come from the car, but not visible on the surface anywhere. Yeah, it's been a long day, and we're ready to call it. See you in the next episode.
Sorry, what?
Your crotch is open. Oh my god.